Hello everyone. Welcome one and all. Warning, I am in my zombie costume, so I am gore today. Let's move over now. After that warning. Hello, welcome everyone. Happy Halloween to you, Mori-chan. Happy Halloween, Sharky. Happy Halloween, Delirian. And to everyone else in chat as well. And Samine, of course. We must not forget Samine is a thing. Hello and welcome. You're either going to be the Joker or Ghostface. Well, I would probably say both are psychopathic. Well, Joker's technically sociopath and Ghostface is psychopath. It's up to you, really. But yes, hello. You're probably wondering, what law can Dan do? What law now? Well, not just law. This is an Ask Me Anything and a Q&A. So, any questions you have, please do throw them in the chat. Try and keep them law-based, but if you can't, then that's okay, I understand. And we'll give it a go for now. We'll just see how this goes. I might do some light horror story reading while we're here. But in terms of law, I just thought today I'd just give a couple of fun facts about myself that people might not know yet. So some of the things that I wanted to touch on was, if you can actually see it here, my tongue is a point. It goes to a point. And in terms of whether I have hair, technically no. These on my head are feathers. We have scales and feathers, my race. Or I should say my species, technically. We're a different species. So, yes, we have feathers and we have a pointed tongue. Spikes are different for every member of the species. Scales are normally the same, but in different colour variations. I might change the music out for just a fireplace. I kind of just want a fireplace feel, so give me just a second to do that. I love how... Oh, I put irreplace. I wanted fireplace. I deleted the F. Oops. F in chat, everybody. F in chat. Get comfortable. Happaloon. Happaloon? Happy Halloween, Chef Zale. Happy Halloween to you. Happy Samhain to everyone. So what we're doing is just a bit of a just chatting stream. It's just going to be me here talking to you, you know, like talking. And you can see my room in the background. We've got some spooky decorations out, that kind of thing. Happy Loon! I was trying to say Happy Halloween together, like Happyleen, Happyween. Anyway, I'm gonna look up some children's Halloween stories. There we go. Some. Oh no. Let's just search Halloween stories. And maybe we'll do some reading, you know. Let's not do anything too scary. I would rather be able to sleep tonight. Let's go here. Hapoline. Yes, my little mistake. Ooh. Shall we learn about Baba Yaga? And I'll do the raven. I like that. I like that. And then we've got the Wicked Witch of the West. Ooh. Ooh, spooky, spooky stuff going on here. I hope the fire is okay. Is it too quiet? Happy Halloween, a dog. Oh no. Well, we're about to learn about Baba Yaga together. Can I read it? Here we go. So, somewhere in the eastern part of Europe, where it gets bitterly cold in winter, there is a dark forest. If you are ever brave, foolish, or ignorant enough to go wandering through that forest, there is a good chance that you might come across a peculiar house. It's a wooden hut, but it's like no other that you have ever seen, for it stands on giant chicken legs, and quite often it walks about, just like a monstrous farmyard bird. This hut is the home of Baba Yaga. I don't advise that you knock at the door of Baba Yaga's hut. No matter... Sorry, I'm just bringing you across so I can read. The fire is fine and under control. I mean, as long as you can hear it properly, then I'm happy. I don't advise that you knock at the door of Baba Yaga's hut, no matter how much you have lost your way through the forest, for Baba Yaga is a witch. On the edge of Baba Yaga's forest, there is a little village, and everyone who lives there knows about the strange hut and the lady who lives inside it. They know her, and they fear her, for it has long been rumoured that she likes to eat children. A long time ago, a man lived in this village with his beautiful daughter, who was called Vasilisa. The girl's mother had sadly died some years before the start of the story. But before she died, she gave Vasilisa a wonderful gift. It was a little rag doll that did not look so different from any other. The girl's mother told Vasilisa that she should take special care of the doll. Every night she must feed it a little milk and a little biscuit, and so long as she did so, the doll would always be ready to help her, no matter how much trouble she found herself in. Vasilisa did just as her mother bid her. Every night the little ragdoll sat up and drank a little milk and ate a little biscuit before smiling at Vasilisa and then going back to sleep. As time went by, the girl's father decided to marry again. His second wife had 2 daughters of her own, neither of whom could touch Vasilisa for beauty or sweetness of character. In fact, they were jealous of Vasilisa, and they hated her terribly. So long as Vasilisa's father remained at home, the stepmother and stepsisters had to pretend that they liked her, but every now and then one of the sisters would whisper in Vasilisa's ear, "Just wait until your dear Papa leaves us alone with you. Then you'll see." Hi Marsh, welcome in. How am I? I'm good. We are reading the story of Baba Yaga and celebrating Halloween Samhain together. So, yeah, how are you? I heard you're a bit under the weather. I saw your Twitter post. I hope you feel better soon, Marsh. I'm going to do some shout outs while I'm here for those who have come in. So, if you haven't checked out Delirium is going to be streaming at some point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Delirium, please do. But at some point Delirium will be streaming, or currently is now. You'd be sick. Yeah, I saw. I'm sorry about that. You don't deserve that. When Vasilisa had recently passed her 16th birthday, her father said that he had to go away on a journey that would last at least a month. Vasilisa begged him to take her with him, but he just laughed and said he was travelling on business and the girl would find the journey tiresome and dull. The first night after the father had left, the stepmother gathered the 3 girls together in the parlour and spoke as such. Now, my dears, I have a little task for each of you. Tanya, that was the oldest, go in my room, please, my dear, and sew a button on my red dress. Katya, the youngest, go to the kitchen table and roll some pastry so that it's nice and flat. And Vasilisa, my dear, go to Baba Yaga's hut in the forest and ask her to lend us some lights. Now run along, sweetheart. Don't waste any time. We don't want you to get caught in the dark now, do we? The stepmother shooed Vasilisa out of the house so fast that she hardly had time to put on her hat and gloves. She walked forlornly to the corner of the street and took the little doll out of her coat pocket where it had been sleeping. "Oh, little doll," she said, "my mother told me that if I fed and looked after you, you would be ready to help me if I was ever in trouble. Well, I have fed and looked after you. Now I'm in terrible trouble. I must go to Baba Yaga, and everyone knows that she is a dreadfully wicked witch. So please tell me, what am I to do?" The little doll looked up at Vasilisa and said, "Be as brave as you are beautiful. Go to Baba Yaga's hut, and no harm will come to you." I hope to start streaming by next year. Good! That's great! Well, we'll see if we can get you some extra follows just in time. Who else have we got? We got Sharky. Sharky is... I think Sharky's streaming currently. Like, is streaming these days. Let me know if I'm wrong, Sharky. But yeah, please do give Sharky a little follow. It does really help everyone who's starting out. So, please do. Vasilisa mustered up all her courage and walked down the path that led through the woods to the hut of Baba Yaga. After a while, the girl heard the sound of galloping hooves coming up behind her, and she stepped off the road to let a horse ridden by a rider in a blazing red cloak shoot past her. "I wonder who that was," thought Vasilisa, before setting off on her way once more. A little further on, she once again heard the sound of galloping hooves, and this time a rider in a cloak of dazzling white sped past her and down the road that led to Baba Yaga's hut. Some time later, a third horse shot by. Its rider wore a cloak that was as black as night. After about an hour of walking, Vasilisa came to a clearing in the forest. Although it was now getting quite dark, she had no trouble seeing, for this neck of the woods was lit by skulls with blazing eyes. The skulls were mounted on top of a... Oh! Thank you for the hydrate, Sharky. I'll do that right now. The skulls were mounted on top of a high fence. Beyond the fence, she saw the strange hut that stood on chicken legs. It turned around to face her, and it seemed to Vasilisa that the hut was looking at her. Then the chicken legs began to kneel, and the hut lowered to the ground, and the door creaked open. Baba Yaga's nose was so long and bony that it appeared through the door before the rest of her. A moment or two later, the nose was followed by a tall, skinny old woman holding a broomstick. Vasilisa was so frightened that her legs would not obey her when she told them to run. The old lady came towards her, but she did not walk. Her feet flew just a few inches above the ground. "Well, child," she said, "did the cat get your tongue? Or are you just badly brought up? Speak, child! Spit out your name and your business here. I haven't got all night to hover around while you tremble and gibber like an idiot." For a few moments, Vasilisa's lips quivered so much that no proper words would come out of her mouth. Just a kind of ah, ah, ah. But then she remembered the doll's words that no harm would come to her, and eventually she found courage to speak clearly. Good ma'am," she said. "It is only me, little Vasilisa. My stepmother sent me to the forest to borrow a light from Baba Yaga." "Did she now?" said Baba Yaga thoughtfully. "Well, I am Baba Yaga, but you may call me Babushka." Vasilisa brightened a little at this, for Babushka is a kindly name that means grandma, Baba Yaga went on. Now you come to me, into my hut. I will give you some simple tasks to do. If you're not lazy and you complete your work like a good girl, then I will give you the light that you asked for and let you go free. But if you do not manage these simple tasks, I shall cook you in my oven and eat you for my dinner. She cackled. How do you like that for an offer? To tell you the truth, Vasilisa did not like that at all, but she had faith that all would be well, that she would complete the task and return with the light, and so she curtsied and said, I like it well, dear babushka. And she followed the old lady as she floated back into the door of her hut and called out, Locks, unlock! The doors creaked open and then shut again behind Vasilisa as she stepped inside. The hut was surprisingly roomy, but a large part of it was taken up by a huge oven. Vasilisa had to hold in a scream because the house started to rise up on its chicken legs and move about. She realized that there would be no escape unless Baba Yaga let her go. The witch sat down at the table and gestured to the larder. Fetch me my supper, dear, she said. Yes, babushka, replied Vasilisa, and she brought over some bread and cheese for the old lady. Ah, well, said Baba Yaga. Soon I shall be enjoying a nice plate of roast meat, thinly sliced and pink in the middle. With those words she pinched Vasilisa's arm. Now tomorrow, my dear, you must complete my little task. When I am away from the hut, you must tidy the yard, clean the hut, and cook pumpkin soup for my supper. Can you manage that? Why, yes, babushka, I can, said Vasilisa, who was relieved that the task did not sound by any means beyond her ability. That is good, said Baba Yaga. And when you have finished doing that, you could sort out all the kitchen pots and pans. You love story times? Well, I hope you enjoy this one. Baba Yaga ate her bread and cheese and drank a tankard of frothy brown ale before falling asleep on top of the thick fur which was strewn above the stove, the warmest place in the hut. The hut continued to move around and Vasilisa felt queasy. She certainly had no appetite herself, but before she lay down for the night, she did not forget to feed her doll a few crumbs of bread and some drops of milk. When the rag doll had finished her supper, Vasilisa asked her, Oh dear, what have I done? How shall I ever get out of here? The doll replied, Have courage and keep faith, and all will be well. For Baba Yaga is unable to tell a lie, and she is bound to keep her promise. The next morning, Baba Yaga arose from her bed on top of the stove, and drank another tankard of ale before flying up the chimney and onto the roof. Vasilisa looked out of the window and saw the witch flying away above the trees. But this time she was riding what looked like a giant mortar. A mortar, by the way, is like a strong wooden bowl, and you can use it for cooking. You put some herbs or spices in there and crush and grind them with a stick called a pestle. This is what the witch was flying, only it was much bigger than a usual mortar. A giant pestle was what the old lady was holding in her hand and using as a rudder to guide her flight. Vasilisa gazed at the witch until she was out of sight, and then started to clean and to cook. She managed to get everything spick and span and get the soup on the cooker by midday, but now she faced an impossible task. How could she possibly pick the black peas out of a sack of white ones? Why, there must have been thousands, if not millions of peas in the sack. She heard a noise outside the hut. Oh, Baba Yaga must be back early. Now I'm done for, she exclaimed. But when she looked out of the window, she saw not Baba Yaga, but the white horseman who had overtaken her on her way to the hut. He galloped around the fence of the compound, and then was off again into the woods. Vasilisa sighed and wished that he would only come and rescue her, whoever he might be. Then, when she turned around, From the window, she saw that all the peas had been sorted into 2 piles, one black and one white. Her task was done. That evening, after Baba Yaga flew back home from whatever business she had been on, the old witch could not hide her surprise at all that her guest had managed to achieve the task in one day.
"I see that you're a good little worker, my dear," she said. "Well, in that case, tomorrow you can make pea soup and fetch water from the stream to fill up the tank. Here, use this bucket."
What she handed to Vasilisa was not a bucket, but a sieve, and the poor girl wondered how she would ever manage to use it to fetch water. Still that night, when the little rag doll urged her not to feel despair, she knew in her heart that something wonderful might happen to help her. And it did. For as she stood by the stream holding the sieve in her hand, the red horseman rode by, took it from her, and swept over the hut where he held it through the open window. When Vasilisa returned, she found the tank was filled with fresh water. That evening, Baba Yaga dipped her bony finger in the tank and tasted a drop of the fresh water. She said,
"Indeed, you are a hard-working girl. Let's see if you're clever too. Tonight, stay up and count the number of stars in the sky. If you tell me the right number in the morning, you can take your light and go free. But if your answer is wrong, even if you tell me 1 star too many or too few, then I shall have you for my breakfast."
That night, Vasilisa gazed out of the window at the sky and tried to count the stars. 1, 2, 3, 5, but by the time she reached 100 stars, she was no longer sure whether or not she was counted the same ones again, and she had to start all over again. It did not help that the hut kept moving around so that the view kept on changing. Eventually, Vasilisa began to sob quietly. She took out her doll and said, "Oh, dear little doll, who will come to the aid of poor little Vasilisa this time? I cannot guess the number of stars in the sky, and in the morning the witch shall surely eat me."
"Do not worry," said the doll. "Have courage and keep faith, and all will be well."
And it was, for at the midnight hour the black horseman came running up to the window where Vasilisa was sitting, and he whispered a number to her as if in a dream. It was a very big number, but I cannot tell you what it was, for it is a secret. But it was the exact number of stars in the sky that he told her. And in the morning, when Baba Yaga stepped with her bony legs onto the floor, Vasilisa said, "Good morning, Babushka. Shall I tell you the number of stars now?" Baba Yaga yawned and said,
"Go on, child, tell me. But you had better not be wrong, for if you are, I shall eat you."
Vasilisa told the number to Baba Yaga, who let out a terrible cry. "Ah!" Her eyes blazed like those of the skulls on the fence surrounding her hut.
"Who told you that?"
she demanded so fiercely that Vasilisa sank back. Baba Yaga picked up a plate and threw it across the room so that it smashed against the wall. Then she picked up a knife, and Vasilisa was sure she meant to kill her. "But Babushka, you promised that if I told you the number correctly I could take a light and go free." Baba Yaga froze, and the fierce glare of her eyes lessened somewhat.
"Ah, yes," she said more calmly. "So I did. I suppose it was morning and day that helped you with the other tasks I set to you."
Vasilisa nodded, for now she understood that the 3 horsemen were morning, day, and night.
"Then you are a good girl," said Baba Yaga. "For if morning, day, and night choose to help you, that means that your spirit is in harmony with the universe. I will do you no harm. Wait here while I go on my business. I have no tasks for you today. Tonight you shall return home with a light."
That evening, after Baba Yaga flew home on her motor, she took Vasilisa out into the courtyard and gave her one of the skulls with blazing eyes.
"Take this," she said. "It will light up your stepmother and your 2 stepsisters very well."
Vasilisa took the skull and returned back down the path to her village. She expected that her stepmother would have found a light by now, but in fact the house was not lit. Instead, her relatives were sitting in complete darkness. She stepped into the house. The skull lit up the inside as bright as day. "I'm home," called out Vasilisa, but she received no reply, for as soon as the light fell on her stepmother and sisters, they turned to dust. Vasilisa went to live with a kind old lady in the village until her father returned from his business. When he came back, he thought that his wife and stepdaughters must have run away. He did not miss them much. He lived happily with his beautiful daughter Vasilisa until one day a prince came riding by and caught sight of her. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen, and he had no hesitation in asking her to marry him, which she did, and they lived happily ever after.
Oh, that's cute. That was cute, right? Right?
I loved that. That was really enjoyable. I like these reading streams. I mean, this is my first one. Again, ask me anything. I have law questions you can ask. Did you know I have 4 claws on my feet, not 5? And in fact, we have, like, hind legs that can raise us up taller if we need to intimidate our enemies. Yeah. Scary, right? What do we want next? Do we want the Raven or the Wicked Witch of the West? How many teeth do I have? That's a good question. 56. I have 28 on the top and 28 on the bottom. A law-based question, Alpha. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Yeah. A lot. A lot of wood, basically. Actually, hardly any wood, because a woodchuck can't chuck wood. But if a woodchuck could chuck wood, then it would be a lot. That's how I feel anyway. Oh no. The graphics art bots are following me again. Here comes an ad, everyone. Here it comes. I think we'll do the Raven, I think. So the Raven is a poem by Edgar Allan Poe, one of the creationists of horror, and a very prolific writer. So yeah, I think we can do this. This is, like I said, it's a poem, so here we go. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak of December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my book surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here for evermore. and the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more." Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams. Apologies, I need to take a sip of water. I'll start that paragraph again. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what there it is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but, with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fantasy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being he ever was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door. Bird or beast above the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, "Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before." And then the bird said, "Nevermore." Startled at the stillness, broken by reply so aptly spoken, "Doubtless," said I, "what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his song's one burden bore, to the dirges of his hopes that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore." But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet silking I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking "Nevermore." This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining, with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy Goth had lent thee, by these angels he has sent thee, respite in nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind of nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore. Desolate yet, all undaunted, on this island land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels named Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word or sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight over him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Ah, that was spooky, very spooky. Has anyone got like any stories that they know of that I could read? Any stories at all? We don't want too scary because it's a comfy, chill Halloween night. Again, any questions? Ask me anything. Let's see, what have we got here? I've got... we've got a Jewish story for Halloween. If I want to read that. How do I file my taxes? That's a very good question. In Arvin, we don't really tax people for working. And we don't generally have tax on like food and things because our economy is, you know, not fucked. Yeah, everyone gets fair pay. Everyone pays appropriate prices. Then again, we use a different currency to everyone here in everyone else. Do I like creepypastas? Hi, welcome in, Bring Out the Dead. Welcome in. What creepypasta do you wish to recommend for me to read? And I'll have a look through it. I'm more than happy to read a creepypasta. I apologise for me eating. I'm just trying to finish up my dinner as soon as I can. You'll have to tell me the name of it. You won't be able to post a link, I'm afraid. Thank you for coming in, though. And do give me a suggestion. Anyone else have suggestions as well? Please send them in chat. Seaweed. Hmm. Okay. I can read this. This is... It looks just like a very short story. I'm gonna open the Wattpad and make sure I've got the right thing. Can I continue reading this? Oh, okay. It is a short story. Cool. Seaweed. My grandmother grew up in the slums of Prohibition-era Chicago. Her family lived in a small house near the harbour, and one of her earliest memories was of a particularly hot summer when, seeking respite from the heat, she and her sister discovered a seldom used section of boardwalk near an abandoned warehouse. Every night for several weeks, the two girls would make their way down to the docks and sit together on the edge of the pier as the sun went down. My grandmother vividly, and for a time fondly, recalled the feel of the seaweed between her toes as she and her sister dangled their feet into the murky water. It wasn't until years later that she returned to the pier and found that the warehouse had been demolished. Curious, she made an inquiry with the Department of Planning and Development. Apparently, the warehouse had been owned for a time by the mob, who was using it as a base of operations for a local prostitution racket. It had only been uncovered when an associate began disposing of rival hookers by fitting them with concrete shoes and dumping them into the harbour. Investigating officers had recovered nearly 24 bodies from the waters of a secluded pier nearby. How had the bodies been discovered? A passing fisherman spotted some of the victims' hair floating near the surface of the water, like seaweed. Oh no, so the seaweed is their hair. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Whew. That's a creepy one for sure, isn't it? Okay. Any others? Just gonna quickly finish my food while I wait for more suggestions. And there we go, food all finished. I've got maybe time for 2 more stories, and then we're gonna go raid out somebody. Should I see what else we've got? Halloween stories. Are these actual long books? Thanks for reading that, by the way. Your voice is great. Thank you so much for saying that. I know some are like, oh, British. And yes, Britain has done a lot wrong. But thank you very much for saying that. I really appreciate that, actually. It's very kind of you to say as well. So thank you. Should we read another Edgar Allan Poe? Oh god, no, Edgar Allan Poe is long. Ooh. Ooh, I found another, oh my god, this poem's huge. I'm gonna do it though. I like this poem. This one is called Phantasmagoria by Lewis Carroll. One winter night at 9:30, cold, tired and cross and muddy, I had come home too late to dine, and supper with cigars and wine was waiting in the study. There was a strangeress in the room, and something white and wavy was standing near me in the gloom. I took it for the carpet broom left by that careless slavey. That's not good, actually. I do not agree with slavery in any way. But presently the thing began to shiver and to sneeze, on which I said, "Come, come, my man, that's a most inconsiderate plan. Less noise there, if you please." "I've caught a cold," the thing replies, "out there upon the landing." I turned to look in some surprise, and there before my very eyes a little ghost was standing. He trembled when he caught my eye, and got behind a chair. "How came you here," I said, "and why? I never saw a thing so shy. Come out, don't shiver there." He said, "I'll gladly tell you how, and also tell you why. But," here he gives a little bow, "you're in so bad a temper now, you'd think it all a lie. And as to being in a fright, allow me to remark, the ghosts have just as good a right in every way to fear the light, as men to fear the dark." "No plea," said I, "can well excuse such cowardice in you, for ghosts can visit when they choose, whereas we humans can't refuse," I assume that says, "to grant the interview." He said, "A flutter of alarm is not unnatural, is it? I really feared you meant some harm, but now I see that you are calm, so let me explain my visit. Houses are classed, I beg to state, according to the number of ghosts that they can accommodate. The tenant merely counts as weight, with coals and other lumber. This is a one-ghost house, and you, when you arrived last summer, may have remarked a spectre who was doing all that ghosts can do to welcome the newcomer. In villas this is always done, however cheaply rented, for though of course there's less of fun, when there is only a room for one, ghosts have to be contented. That spectre left you on the 3rd, since then you've not been haunted, for as he never sent us word, 'twas quite by accident we heard that anyone was wanted. A spectre has first choice by right in filling up a vacancy, then phantom, goblin, elf and sprite. If all these things fail them, they invite the nicest ghoul that they can see. The spectre said the place was low, and that you kept bad wine. So as a phantom had to go, and I was first of course you know, I couldn't well decline. No doubt, I said, they settled who was fittest to be sent, yet still to choose a brat like you, to haunt a man of 42, was no great compliment. I'm not so young, sir, he replied, as you might think. The fact is, in caverns by the water tide, and other places that I've tried, I've had a lot of practice. But I have never taken yet a strict domestic part, and in my flurry I forget the 5 good rules of etiquette we have to know by heart. My sympathies were warming fast towards the little fellow. He was so utterly aghast at having found a man at last, and looked so scared and yellow. At least, I said, I'm glad to find a ghost is not a dumb thing. But sit down, you'll feel inclined, if, like myself, you have not dined, to take a snack of something. Though certainly you don't appear a thing to offer food to, and then I shall be glad to hear, if you will say them loud and clear, the rules that you allude to. Thanks, you shall hear them by and by. This is a piece of luck. What may I offer you? Said I. Well, since you are so kind, I'll try a little bit of duck. 1 slice. And may I ask you for another drop of gravy? I sat and looked at him in awe, for certainly I never saw a thing so white and wavy. And still he seemed to grow more white, more vapoury and wavy, seen in the dim and flickering light, as he proceeded to recite his maxims of behaviour. My first, but don't suppose, he said, I'm setting you a riddle. Is, if your victim be in bed, don't touch the curtains at his head, but take them in the middle, and wave them slowly in and out, while drawing them asunder, and in a minute's time, no doubt, he'll raise his head and look about, with eyes of wrath and wonder. And he who must, on no pretence, make the first observation, wait for the victim to commence, no ghost of any common sense begins a conversation. If he should say, how came you here, the way that you began, sir, in such a case your course is clear. On the bat's back, my little dear, is the appropriate answer. If after this he says no more, you best perhaps curtail your exertions, go and shake the door, and then, if he begins to snore, you'll know the thing's a failure. By day, if he should be alone, at home, or on a walk, you merely give a hollow groan, to indicate the kind of tone in which you mean to talk. But if you find him with his friends, the thing is rather harder. In such a case, depends on picking up some candle ends, or butter in the larder. With this you make a kind of slide, it answers best to sweat, on which you must contrive to glide, and swing yourself from side to side. One soon learns how to do it. The second tells us what is right. In ceremonious calls, first burn a blue or crimson light, a thing I quite forgot tonight, then scratch the door or walls. I said you'll visit here no more, if you attempt the guy. I'll have no bonfires on my floor, and as for scratching at my door, I'd like to see you try. The third was written to protect the interests of the victim, and tells us, as I recollect, to treat him with a grave respect, and not to contradict him. That's plain, said I, as tart and shred to any comprehension. I only wish some ghosts I've met will not so constantly forget the maxim that you mention. Perhaps, he said, you first transgressed the laws of hospitality. All ghosts instinctively detest the man that fails to treat his guest with proper cordiality. If you address a ghost as thing, or strike him with a hatchet, he is permitted by the king to drop all formal parleying, and then you're sure to catch it. The fourth prohibits trespassing where other ghosts are quartered, and those convicted of the thing, unless plundered by the king, must instantly be slaughtered. That simply means be cut up small, ghosts soon unite anew. The process scarcely hurts at all, not more than when you are what you call cut up by a review. The fifth is one you may prefer that I should quote entire. The king must be addressed as sir. This from a simple courtier is all the laws require. But should you wish to do the thing with out and out politeness, accost him as my goblin king, and always use in answering the phrase your royal whiteness. I'm getting rather hoarse, I fear, after so much reciting, so if you don't object, my dear, we'll try a glass of bitter beer. I think it looks inviting. And did you really walk, said I, on such a wretched night? I always fancied ghosts could fly, if not exactly in the sky, yet at a fairish height. It's very well, said he, for kings to soar above the earth, but phantoms often find that wings, like many other pleasant things, cost more than they are worth. Spectres, of course, are rich, and so come by them from the elves, but we prefer to keep below. They're stupid company, you know, for any but themselves. For though they claim to be exempt, from pride they treat a phantom as something quite beneath contempt, just as no turkey ever dreamt of noticing a bantam. They seem too proud, said I, to go to houses such as mine. Pray how did they contrive to know so quickly that the place was low, and that I kept bad wine? Inspector Kobold came to you, the little ghost began. Here I broke in, Inspector who? Inspecting ghosts is something new. Explain yourself, my man. His name is Kobold, said my guest, one of the Spectre Order. You'll very often see him dressed in a yellow gown, a crimson vest, and a nightcap with a border. He tried the Brocken business first, but caught a sort of chill, so came to England to be nursed, and here it took the form of thirst, which he complains of still. Port wine, he says, when rich and sound, warms his old bones like nectar, and as the inns where it is found are his especial hunting ground, we call him the Inspector. I bore it like a man, this agonizing witticism, and nothing could be sweeter than my temper to the ghost began some most provoking criticism. Cooks need not to be indulged in waste, yet still you'd better teach them. Dishes should have some sort of taste. Pray, why are all the cruets placed where nobody can reach them? That man of yours will never earn his living as a waiter. Is that queer thing supposed to burn? It's far too dismal a concern to call a moderator. The duck was tender, but the peas were very much too old. And just remember, if you please, the next time you have toasted cheese, don't let them send it cold. You'd find the bread improved, I think, by getting better flour. And have you anything to drink that looks a little less like ink and isn't quite so sour? Then, peering around with curious eyes, he muttered, "Goodness gracious," and so went on to criticise. "Your room's an inconvenient size. It's neither snug nor spacious. That narrow window, I expect, serves but to let the dust in. But please," said I, to recollect, "'twas fashioned by an architect who pinned his faith on Ruskin." "I don't care who he was, sir, or on whom he pinned his faith. Constructed by whatever law, so poor a job I never saw, as I'm a living wraith. What a remarkable cigar! How much are they a dozen?" "I grow no matter what they are. You're getting as familiar as if you were my cousin." "Now that's a thing I will not stand, and so I tell you flat." "Aha," said he, "we're getting grand," taking a bottle in his hand. "I'll soon arrange for that." And here he took a careful aim, and Galley cried, "Here goes." I tried to dodge it as it came, but somehow caught it all the same, exactly on my nose. And I remember nothing more that I can clearly fix, till I was sitting on the floor, repeating 2 and 5 are 4, but 5 and 2 are 6. What really passed I never learned, nor guessed. I only know that when at last my sense returned, the lamp neglected dimly burned, and the fire was getting low. Through driving mists I seemed to see a thing that smirked and smiled, and found that he was giving me a lesson in biography, as if I were a child. And there we go. That's only actually half the poem, but the poem is huge. So that was Phantasmagoria by Lewis Carroll, another famous spooky writer, basically. I hope everyone had a lovely time. I will be back in 2 hours, so we're gonna just, like, I don't know, go raid somebody. Who do I want to raid? Anyone have a suggestion for who to raid? Let me just type it in. Raid suggestions. And we know people's names and we can go out and raid them. While I'm gone, I'm going to probably hang out with Ray, if I can, and start planning stuff for next week. Who do we want to raid? Who have we got? Oh! I know who I want to raid. Lady Random. Oh, okay. Let me just double check she's not ending. And then we'll see. There's a little bit of problem. Let me just see if I can do something. That's weird though, because it should be less quality, but it's not. Oh, hang on. No, it's... Oh, no, she's not finishing. Okay, we'll go right out to Lady Random. Everyone, I'll see you in a couple of hours for Don't Starve. Thank you so much for coming by Bring Out the Dead. I hope you had a lovely time with the readings. Same to everyone as well. So Marsh, Alpha, Delirium, Sharky, Zale, Alpha. I think I said Alpha already. But yes. Let's see. I think when I come back later, I'll be wearing the skeleton costume. Just because I want to use both today before I don't get to use them again for another year. So... Okay. I'm getting a bit of lag here. I'm just going to end that. Okay, everyone. I hope you're ready for a raid. Love to you all. Let me do the raid message so we can grab it. Okay, I'm just going to do this then. Oh, here we go. It's done it already. Cool. Alright, everyone. I'll see you in 2 hours. Bye for now. Mwah.